Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Auburn Football Head-to-Head, brought to you by Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Appreciate their sponsorship of this show and partnership all season long. Auburn football coming off their first SEC win of the season. Peter Rauterkus, Simone, Eli joining you to break down the win over Arkansas and look ahead to Kentucky. Peter, first things first when it comes to the Auburn win there in Fayetteville, obviously the quarterback change, obviously Coach Freeze is still on the plains. Those are kind of the two biggest topics right now. What's it been like the last couple of days covering the Auburn Tigers?
Yeah, I think from everyone in the program, there's just a little bit of a feeling of relief. I don't think Saturday's win against Arkansas fixed everything by any means. I mean,
Sure.
the offense still struggled, especially in the red zone, only scored one offensive touchdown all game against the worst defense in the SEC statistically. But, you finally got the win, and that's what's been escaping Auburn throughout SEC play. They've been on a 4-game losing streak, and all 4 of those losses were games that, they really felt like they could have and should have won. And so to finally get one against Arkansas, I think obviously felt really good for everyone. I mean, Hugh even described it himself. He said he doesn't pay attention too much to the noise, but he did say it was kind of a breath of fresh air for him and for everyone inside the building. So I think now, you're back at home against Kentucky this week against another very winnable team. I mean, Kentucky also is yet to win a game in SEC play. So I think there is a little bit of relief, but also knowing that, all right, you've got to sustain this.
Auburn had a relatively balanced offensive attack, but one of the biggest topic, of course, is Jackson Arnold started the game. Then the pick 6 happened. He was replaced by Ashton Daniels. I think we all kind of knew that move was going to happen after that play. Ashton Daniels came in, showed confidence, did what needed to be done, won the game. At the end of the day, won the game. Whether he looked like the best quarterback in the college football or not doesn't matter. Auburn won. That's got to give some indication that, hey, okay, this might be kind of a turning of the tide, so to speak, as to what they might be doing offensively. Not to mention, they put Ashton Daniels out in front of the media this week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the first question Hugh Freeze was asked on Monday was, all right, Ashton came in, on Saturday. Hugh Freeze wouldn't say right immediately after the game what they were going to do going forward. He said he wanted to watch the film. After watching the film, the question was, all right, well, what's the plan going forward? And, what he said to the media and on his radio show was, it's going to be an open competition this week. And he even said that he still said that he wasn't leaning one way or another right now, but also said if he were to be leaning one way or another, he's not going to tell people publicly just, for a competitive reason. Kentucky on its toes, I guess. But, yeah, and it's interesting, too, when you think about it that way, because I really think you look at the offense and the way both Jackson and Ashton play, I don't think there's a huge change in what the offense would do. I think they both have similar skill sets. But, I think, Ashton, he spoke to us on Tuesday, like you mentioned, just one thing that Freeze mentioned after the game was just his confidence, his poise. And even when he's not on the field, you just feel that when you're talking to him. That's no knock against Jackson Arnold, but when you talk to Ashton Daniels, you can tell that he's a guy that's been a starter for 2 years. You can tell that he graduated from Stanford, So I think his presence definitely helped the offense on Saturday, and we'll see how he's going forward.
It's not like this game was in hand by any means for Auburn throughout. Obviously trailed at times. There was times where you thought, okay, this could very, very possibly be the last game that Coach Freeze is coaching the Auburn Tigers. What does it say about the team to have muscled their way back into the game and then won the game there in the second half when that's not an easy thing to do at any level of football, most especially when there's so much pressure on a coaching staff to be able to execute down the stretch and come away with a win on the road in the SEC, regardless of your opponent.
Yeah, for sure. I think it shows that, the team hasn't quit. It shows that Hugh Freeze, despite the lack of success, and especially this season, he hasn't lost the locker room. I mean, this team is obviously still fighting and still playing hard. I mean, I think a lot of us thought, myself included, that when Arkansas had that pick 6 right near the end of the first half, that, this one might be over, and this might even be the end of the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn. But, the second half, they came out, they battled, and we finally saw a time the defense has been really good, but they haven't been able to win them a game. And it's hard for a defense to win you a game, right? I mean, it's the offense that most of the time has to go
nowadays, no doubt. Yeah,
but in this game, I mean, 4 fourth quarter turnovers, the pick 6 by Rayshon Pleasant. So just finally, we saw a lot of resiliency from this team, which I think after 4 losses in a row, that's definitely meaningful, and shows it's got to make you feel good about where this team is just from a mentality standpoint.
if there's one guy in an Auburn uniform that can be described by resiliency, it's a guy named Alex McPherson, and what he's been able to bring this team. His story is just remarkable. I get chills just even thinking about it. How has he just been just complete inspiration, and that's really putting it lightly, to this program, the fan base, to be able to do what he did last week, and knowing that maybe the week before wasn't his best performance. I know that there was some talk of he had like apologized to Coach Freeze for feeling like he had lost. I mean, one was it just say about that young man, and then how much has he just kind of really changed the entire thought process about what this team can do, what they're capable of, what they're made of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, what a story. I mean, you talk about Alex McPherson with everything he's been through off the field in the past year or so with his health. And I mean, on one hand, not knowing if he was going to play football again, but also, I mean, just not knowing how much of a normal life he was going to be able to live after, all the surgeries and the illness that he had. And yeah, I mean, it was just already a huge story for him to be able to be back on the field and for kicking Auburn this season. Yeah. And then this week, I mean, tied a school record for field goals made in a game with 6. And it comes after the Missouri game where, he missed 3 field goals, which could have been the difference in the game. And I mean, you mentioned it. Hugh Freeze was emotional post game when he was saying that, McPherson came to his office after the game Saturday saying that he felt like he lost in the game. And so just a really good moment for him and for the team. Just like I said, just a really, really feel good story.
Yeah, it really, really is. No question about that, Peter. When you think about this week for the Auburn Tigers, obviously they'll be back on the Plains against Kentucky. It's a 6:30 Central Time kickoff there on the SEC Network. Kentucky certainly taking their lumps this season, and Auburn is a 10.5 point favorite as of this recording. Kind of, what is your thoughts on this matchup when it comes to the opportunity that lies ahead for Auburn, but also on the other half of it is like, hey, you can't have any let up here either, especially against a team that does, that is winless in the league.
Yeah, I think Auburn's a deserved 10.5 point favorite, but at the same time, like you said, I mean, you can't take your foot off the gas. I mean, this is a team that took Texas to overtime. This is a team that played Ole Miss really close late in the season. So they can be a dangerous team. I think everyone in the SEC can be dangerous. Offensively, Cutter Boley has come in, the freshman quarterback, and has been good. I mean, last week he threw for over 300 yards. The defense, Kentucky, has been shaky at times, but we saw performances like Texas where they really held down that offense. So I think it's definitely a good opportunity for Auburn to stack another win this week, going into a really tough game next week. But we can think about it that way, but Auburn can't afford to think about it that way. I mean, they need to be focused on Kentucky and taking care of business against a very capable team.
Yeah, Auburn now 4-4 in the year, going into the final stretch here, of course, in the month of November. 4 games left. Kentucky at Auburn, Auburn at Vanderbilt, Mercer at Auburn, and then the Iron Bowl. Peter, what is the path to Hugh Freeze being retained at Auburn? Or is that already, could they lose, because they lose out and he's still there? I would probably say no, right? I mean, it's not like a win over Arkansas is probably going to get it done. Not to say that I think they should make a change. I just think that the pressure that seems to be on what this situation is. What do you think it looks like for the month of November? What needs to happen? Probably 2 words. Bowl game probably needs to be in the mix and part of the conversation for this to feel like, hey, he can take a deep breath and know that he's going to be back in 26.
I think for Hugh Freeze, and this is something that I've been saying since before the season started, before the hot seat talk really started during the losing streak, and it's just show progress, show that things moving in the right direction. And the best way to do that is to actually start winning some of these games against good teams that you've had chances to. I don't necessarily think against Kentucky, like another close win against Kentucky would get people all riled up and back on board. But, next week you go to Vanderbilt, which is a top 10. Sure. No, and I guess before I say that, you still need to beat Kentucky. If you lose to Kentucky, then
no question. Yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah.
But, next week, you go to Vanderbilt, which is a top 10 team, and a team that has caused Auburn and Hugh Freeze, a team and a quarterback who's caused Auburn and Hugh Freeze some issues over the last few years. You go and win that game, and all of a sudden, that is a big step of progress. You expect to take care of business against Mercer, and then obviously you win the Iron Bowl in any season. That can be enough to save a season at Auburn, especially when Alabama is as good as they are right now. So I think it's about showing progress, and I really think the only way this team can show progress right now is by winning the types of games that they haven't been winning.
Yeah. Before we kind of go on to our new segment and talk about that, just briefly tell us what is the latest on Cam Coleman's status moving forward right now, Peter?
Yeah, got to watch a little bit of practice today. He was very limited. He was out there in dress, but was only doing like a couple drills that we saw when we were out there. Wasn't in any of the 11-11 periods. Wasn't in one-on-ones or really anything that had any sort of contact or anything like that. So I think still questionable. We'll get a better idea when the official SEC availability report comes out. But and Hugh Freeze said on Monday, I asked him and he said, wasn't looking so good Sunday when they got back after the game, but Monday looked better. So I think it's going to be a day-to-day thing, and we'll see how it progresses throughout the week. Fortunately, Hugh Freeze said it's a lower ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. So those usually don't take as long to heal.
Yeah, good stuff all around, Peter. No question. Last week, we had the chance to kick off our new segment, the Cattle Drive Out of Town segment. Jerry, of course, another Auburn beat writer for AL.com, got to weigh in on what player, coach, fan associated with this upcoming team would Auburn want to drive out of town. So we're talking about the Kentucky Wildcats. Who are they trying to drive out of town, of course, this week on Saturday there on the Plains?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, just talking about Kentucky and how dangerous they can be. I think it's Cutter Boley. I think it's the quarterback. I mean, obviously, it's a Kentucky offense that hasn't been great, but he's been the lifeblood of it, and he seems like he's been improving with each week. Had, like I said, over 300 yards against Tennessee last week.
Yeah.
But I think he's been turning the ball over a good bit. I believe he's thrown interception in each of the last 4 games. Auburn forced, 3 interceptions last week against Arkansas. They had 2 against Missouri. They've been doing a good job of taking the ball away. So I think Cutter Boley is who they want to drive out of town. And I think the best way to do that is to take the ball away.
I like it. Peter, before we let you go, got any prediction on this one? What you think when it hits 000s there at Jordan-Hare?
Yeah, I lean Auburn in this game. I just think Auburn is a more talented team. I think coming off the win against Arkansas, that should give them, a little bit more. I don't think they were necessarily lacking confidence, but it definitely gives them a boost. And, I still don't see it being a huge offensive explosion. We just haven't seen that yet from this Auburn team. But I think they win. I think they cover. I think they win by 2 scores. I'd say something like 23-10.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm thinking, maybe a little closer to 30. I don't know, 27, 28 to 14, something like that. I think that Auburn gets it done. They're at home to get their second SEC win of the season as they look to the final few weeks of the regular season. Cannot believe that it's already flown by this quickly, Peter, man. And we blink and it's like Halloween and we're rolling right along. So what are you going to be for Halloween?
I don't know. It's
an Auburn beat writer.
Right, exactly. We're my everyday costume. So
yeah, I will be Sky from Paw Patrol. When you have children and you have to do like these family, attires, that's how it goes. So it's a whole group of us. We're all Paw Patrol characters. We don't have a choice. So
there you go.
When the 3-year-old's the boss, that's what happens. So, all right, Peter Rauterkus, appreciate your time, sir. This has been Auburn Football Head to Head, brought to you by the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Looking forward to the 6:30 kickoff there against the Kentucky Wildcats. Auburn Tigers will host the game, and we will see you next week as the college football season rolls on. Thanks, guys.